Let's share our most embarrassing training moments. Hang on, let me just check the archive. It's a big archive. Nah, I think there's one that was pretty bad, actually. I've spoken about pissing myself in triathlons before. I pissed myself alone on tenacity at a point that no one knew about just because there was no toilets nearby and I didn't want to get a indecent exposure charge. But we don't need to dwell on that. That's old news. Ah, yes. Nah, I know the one. So, Durham, third year at university. I was very strong. Powerlifting was my focus. My body weight was about 102 kilos, and I was going through a phase of wearing Nike Hyper KOs, which are the MMA shoes, because they were very flat and looked sick at the time, and doing all of my lifting in leggings, which I still do sometimes because it's the best way to get knee sleeves on and off if it's beyond 4 degrees Celsius, but mainly also because it kind of just made me look stronger.
It was the thing.
It was the thing. Yeah. I kind of run out of justifications there beyond. It was just,
no, we all did it.
I was like, wait a minute, why did I do that? Oh no, surely that wasn't the only reason. So this was a Globo gym. It was called Freeman's Quay in Durham. If anyone knows the area, if anyone listening knows Durham. So the university gym was a bit further away from where we were staying in third year, and then there was this Freeman's Quay place which I used when I couldn't get into the performance suite at the actual Durham gym. So I used to train raw conjugate style training where I'd have a heavy variation lower on the Monday, heavy variation upper on the Tuesday, and then dynamic Thursday, Friday. And that was my training week. So a really fun way of training, really, really enjoyed it. It kind of kept me enjoying powerlifting for another 2 years. And this was probably up there with the strongest I've ever been. I worked up to a 240 kilo squat this day, with barbells that were not rated for as much as that. And I fucking sunk it and nailed it. Was really, really happy. Didn't have a spotter, 240 kilo squat. I was in the habit of sort of getting myself quite hyped up. Chalk on the bar, sort of like resting my head on it, getting all slipknotty and weird. I had a couple of friends that were training nearby that were paying attention, so they were kind of supporting me. There was a little bit of hype on it as well, and they were kind of nearby if there was a disaster. But there were safety bars, and I was happy dumping a barbell. But I'd made some noise. So there are a few people in the gym that think, what the fucking hell's going on over there? Like fucking some gimp in blue leggings talking like that. And I was like, okay, right, so I better sink this. One of the best reps I've ever done in my life, to the point where I was very, very hyped at the top of the lift. But the bar was whipping a little bit. So as I walked it in, I slammed the bar in, it whipped and then wedged itself out of the J-hook on the right. But I didn't know that until I'd let go of the bar. So I watched all 100 kilos it would have been, wouldn't it? No, 110 kilos. 110 kilos slide off to the right-hand side before the barbell then flipped aggressively and 110 kilos fell over to the left-hand side. And the whole gym turns around to see some meathead in knee wraps, bright blue leggings, that's got a line of chalk across his forehead with burst blood vessels under his eyeballs and his mates all around him looking pretty amped up, staring at the gym with his eyes wide open going, oh my goodness, what have I done? And I wasn't allowed back in the gym. They said I was disruptive. So you reap what you sow, but it was a very clean 240 kilo rep. So yeah, not proud of that one, but I'm glad that I've shared. James.
I would say this is the only literal disaster I've ever had in a gym. So I went to a gym I've never been to before, and my sister had just moved house. So I was like, right, I'm going to go visit, but en route, I'm going to go get some training done. So anyway, incline bench was the first exercise to do. Was warming up, 60 kilos, 80 kilos. Last warm up at 100 kilos, plan to do 120. At the bottom of the first rep of 100 kilos, all of a sudden, my shoulder just stopped working, and it made a noise. And I was like, oh shit, have I torn my pec? Couldn't work out what was going on, but I was pinned. The gym was empty because it was very early, and I was looking around like, help. The cleaner comes in and like rushes over, couldn't like between us, couldn't get it off because I literally had nothing in this shoulder. Managed to roll it onto my lap, stood up with the bar, screamed in pain as I tried to hold it with my right arm. Anyway, I was like, well, this session's over. So dumped the bar, went to the changing rooms, couldn't get dressed because my arm wasn't working. So I soon came to the realization, like, shit, I need to go to a hospital here. So I couldn't get my shirt on. So like some sort of weird fucking flasher, I had my like coat over this like non-functioning arm with like naked skin showing underneath. Get myself to hospital. Turns out I dislocated my shoulder in the gym. Yeah, it wasn't my finest moment.
And the cleaner wasn't Anatoly.
No, sadly not. No, but he would have come in bloody good. Thanks for that, yeah.
Clean, yes. That's unfortunate. Yeah, well, that's the one time you needed him.
Yeah. And like to my point earlier, touch wood, I've never been injured other than warming up. Or like,
it is funny because you can be so confident, like, without safeties at lightweights or whatever, and you can just, your pec can just go. I think the one time I've torn my pec, it was a 120 kilo warm-up set, and I just pressed on the way up after a pause rep, and it just felt like someone just pinged a string across, ding. I was like, oh. It felt like it started here at the bottom of my right pec and just went to the top of my shoulder, like just like, whoop. Well, it's what I imagined tearing a pec feels like, but okay. And then I unracked it, and it was just screaming at me. I was like, yes, I see what's happened here. Well, that's me. I was like, tried some rowing motion and any sort of tension here. I was like, okay, no. Home gym at the time, thankfully, so I just opened the door and I was done. But it was still, it was. If I hadn't had the safeties and it had been a worse tear, then I would have just dropped it. And 120 kilos at the time was not something that was in any way intimidating. But 120 kilos landing in your chest is somewhat intimidating. So, okay, good lesson there. Don't dislocate your shoulder on an incline bench. And make sure your cleaner is Anatoly.
Exactly, yeah.
Although, didn't he's been rumbled for something recently, I saw. I mean, it's obviously all contrived.
I think that's what I'd seen.
Is that the rumbling?
I think I'd seen that.
People shocked by this?
It was staged. Or,
wow.
I'm not sure.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. And water is wet.
Yeah.
Anyway, Milky Bar Kid that ate the Milky Bar Kid. What's your last one?
I didn't have any crazy ones outside of I've knocked myself out with a front squat in terms of in it.
That's good.
Yeah, chokes you out.
The old windpipe.
Did you thriller backwards or did you fold forwards?
No, fold forward and just delete
Kieran.
Button.
There's two. That's
delete button.
You should have just embellished for the story there. That would have been good. Yeah. Just full on MJ'd it.
Wasn't embarrassing because I was the only one there, but the closest I've come to disaster was actually on the bike and not checking my equipment, and this was easily done. I went for a ride. I'd gone back home to my mum's over Christmas. I think it was 2 years ago now. It would have been 2 years ago because I was still on my BMC, my trusty first nice road bike. And where my mum lives in rural Wales, there is not a lot of flat and there is a huge amount of uphill and downhill. And from the door of this route, it is entirely uphill. So where this was at the time, if anybody knows South Wales well, it was up Betws Mountain. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go up Betws Mountain, and if anyone knows it, there's a descent, and it is absolutely ridiculous how fast you can go, because it is like airstrip straight off the top of this mountain, and it's all downhill, and you can see for miles. It's a closed road. Well, it's not closed, but it may as well be a closed road for how little traffic you see. So I want to say 85 kilometers an hour. It was it's up there. It's where I set my fastest descent, and this was probably up there. This is probably my second fastest descent. Started to realise I had no brakes. None whatsoever. Like white knuckling my brake levers hitting all the way. I don't know if you've ever had this, where your brakes need a blade.
I had this in tenacity.
Yeah, so when
this is just as an aside, this is why I don't ride bikes. Just put it out there.
You find yourself in situations like this where your brakes need a bleed, and if you've ever been in the situation, there's no pressure on the brakes whatsoever, so your levers are just hitting the handlebars, doing absolutely nothing. And I was starting to panic. The speed was picking up to the point where I was getting the speed wobbles. If you've ever had that, where your bike starts to almost like resonate, and it's like trying to shake you off it. And I now know that it's a very simple fix. You just put your thighs on the top tube and it dampens out the vibrations and off you go. I didn't know how to fix this. So I was getting the speed wobbles. I had no brakes, and I was starting to think, one, if a car comes, I can't stop. I am going into a head-on collision here. And I started
and you couldn't signal or anything with your hands?
No, because you're just white-knuckling the bars.
You're just shaking your head like,
yeah.
No.
Literally, there is nothing you can do. And I was starting to think about, right, I'm going to come off damage control, which grass verge looks the comfiest. And the only thing I could do was just trust that no car was going to come and ride out the entire descent and just trust that I made it to the uphill. And that's what I did. I just had to go the entire descent wait for the uphill to lose enough speed and jump off the bike. And it was the closest I've ever come to complete and utter disaster on the bike. So
it would have been bad. That would have been a pretty
trust
grim
your
headline, I think. Yeah.
check your equipment before you ride.